Welcome to Trader Talk, where we dish out the latest Wall Street buzz to keep your portfolio sizzling. I'm Kenny Polcari, and I'm coming to you from the center of the action, where markets move, fortunes are made, and history is written one trade at a time. Today, we're exploring one of the biggest transformations of our time, the rise of AI and its future direction. Daniel Newman, CEO of Futurum Research and a leading voice on the state of AI today and tomorrow, is here to discuss the opportunities, the risks, and what the future may hold. Over the last 5 years, AI has gone from a curiosity to a revolution. What began as simple chatbots and recommendation engines has exploded into general-purpose platforms. Today, AI is everywhere, in healthcare, in finance, logistics, and education. Generative models are mainstream, and now a new frontier is emerging. Agentic AI. Systems that don't just respond, but act. They plan, they reason, and execute tasks with minimal human oversight. They're digital teammates, not just co-pilots. And the opportunities are staggering. Medical breakthroughs, scientific discovery, and wealth management. But the risks are real. Biases, cybersecurity threats, job displacement, and even national security concerns. In the future, the convergence of agentic AI with quantum computing could reshape entire industries. The question is no longer if AI changes our world, it's how we guide it. And the story is only just beginning. Daniel Newman, CEO at Futurum Group and an expert on the state of AI now and in the future, is here to tell us that story. Dan, it's so great to meet you. Thank you for coming to New York Stock Exchange. You've had a busy day. You just flew in from London. You were upstairs at the Ionic Investor Day, which is so appropriate considering what we're talking about. And Ionic is really on that cutting edge, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's just talk a little bit, give the audience just a little bit of sense of how you ended up where you are in terms of your love for technology and research and all that.
Yeah, we founded Futurum about 8 years ago. Before that, I was an author, I'd written books, and I'd been a CEO and operator. I was in the systems integration space. When I was in my late 20s, I wrote my first book called Millennial CEO. I'd actually been the CEO of an IT VAR in Chicago. And when I was done doing that, I spent about a year as a COO of a company that did Cisco systems distribution on the tech side. And I started writing more. I started, creating content for sites like Forbes and Entrepreneur. I was getting hired by tons of tech companies to consult.
Right.
Based on my experience as running businesses, based on the fact that I was a millennial.
Right.
I wrote the book Millennial CEO.
Right.
And as I was doing this, I kind of came to realize that as social was proliferating so quickly, Kenny, that the market really needed people that could translate. This stuff's hard to understand.
100%.
And so that turned out to be a bit of a skill. Definitely good at speaking on the social platforms. Hopefully good on these interviews.
Listen, you're good on social, you're good in interviews, you're good on TV. You are good everywhere we go.
And now we've built quite a company. We work with nearly 500 of the world's largest technology companies. I advise 100 plus of the CEOs of Fortune companies. And we've built, AI-powered evaluative products that we use. So We're using AI now to actually build the future of market analysis, technology analysis, and even sell-side analysis.
Well, it's interesting. Look, you may or may not know, I spent 40 years here during a time before there were any computers at all. I left in 2019 and I live down in Florida now, so I'm a chief market strategist at a wealth advisory firm. We manage about $2 billion of investor wealth, very long-term, that kind of stuff. But I'm very interested to see, because I can already see how, AI is not only changing that industry, but changing so many other industries. But it brings the issue, what it brings to the top of the conversation is a lot of things that people worry about is, am I going to lose my job? Is the computer going to replace everything that everybody does?
Maybe. I mean, there's this fun, so I've written a number of books on digital transformation.
Right.
And as we know, with each transformative era, and you've been through it because you watched the markets revolutionize, right? And I mean, think of how much trading now is algorithmic, right? There used to be, used to be paper.
Oh, trust me, I was one of those guys.
Right, you were there.
Look, I'm a boomer, so I was one of those guys.
Hey, boomer. But you know that this stuff is changing very, very quickly. Yes. Now, in every revolution of the past, it's been about more jobs, not less, right? And so you go through the industrial revolutions, you went through, the printing press, you went through radio, television, social, mobile, all these things, more jobs were created. But I'm more cautious this time. And the reason I'm more cautious, you kind of said this in the introduction to this show, is these agents and this technology and how much it is capable of doing, I've never seen technology kind of more directly come after both white collar work and blue collar work at the same time so quickly.
Right. And I think that's the concern for a lot of people, right? Because they don't necessarily know, it goes after blue collar work. That's kind of what it's always done. But now it's coming after white collar work. And so, and across the spectrum, could be legal, could be analysis, could be so many things.
Yeah, but you think about like over the last 5 years, 10 years, the gig economy. This is a really interesting thing that I've been thinking a lot about. The gig economy created jobs, delivering food, delivering people. Uber, it's been amazing. But now Tesla's building robo-taxis.
Right.
I'm in Austin. They're driving around my city right now, Waymo. This is great technology. And by the way, more reliable than humans.
Yeah, but do you get in a Waymo?
Absolutely.
Do you?
Absolutely. Don't even think twice about it. Look, the Waymo drives much better than the average Uber driver. It's a data-driven fact. I'm a data-driven guy.
Right.
But the bottom line is like, do you care if DoorDash would be delivered to you by a drone? Or by Optimus robot, or right? We don't. But the thing is, think of how many people created a gig during the gig economy. Now, either they couldn't make enough money in their first job, and they now are driving Uber. What happens now when all that gets replaced? That's just one example, though, of potential replacement, disruption, displacement. So, what we see overall is that time is the biggest issue here, because what I do believe fundamentally as a techno-optimist, what I do fundamentally believe is that the revolution of AI will create a boom. We think $30 trillion of economic growth, Kenny.
Right. Yeah.
But historically, the transformations have been over years, maybe 5 years, 10 years. This has happened so quickly.
Right. This is not happening over that period of time. It's happening much quicker. And I think that's what it can be so overwhelming to people, right? So when you think about it, you think about the birth of AI. When would you actually pinpoint the birth of AI?
I mean, there's a lot of debate, but there were, universities and academics back in the 1950s were talking about AI. Algorithms were started to be played with 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So the idea of AI being something new, it's not. It's been around a long time. But in
It's new to the mainstream.
Well, I mean, look, a lot of us have been sort of doing things that were AI-ish for some time, not really realizing it, like voice-to-text translation, like how long we've been able to do that on our devices. We didn't think twice about it. If you've been using Google applications for a long time, Google was kind of starting to finish your sentences. It's been several years that this kind of technology existed. Netflix, the ability for it to recommend to you. So these are all things that are kind of considered ML, machine learning, considered advanced analytics, the ability for it to say, oh my gosh, you like this movie or you like this coffee, you want some, this is all AI.
Right.
But obviously now what we're seeing is instead of it kind of maybe recommending something to you or filtering a result in a Google search to get you the right thing, now it's actually creating stuff for you. And to your point about agents, Kenny, it's not only creating stuff, it can execute stuff. You can say, look, create this document, then post it on my social.
Right.
That's a simple example.
Well, no, it's a simple example, but it's very real, because what I find is that ChatGPT, as you use it more, it really gets to understand who I am. It understands my voice. It understands the way I talk, how I write my sentences, how I use my language, right? Maybe different how you use yours, but it understands me, which is a little bit unperfect.
By the way, it not only does it understand you, you can actually tell it. You can tell ChatGPT, for instance, to say, actually remember this about me. And it will remember it. You say, remember the way I write this. Or when it gets to an end and you're like, hey, because we're doing a lot of our research with AI, and I'll talk to you more about that as you see it. But you can get to a result, Kenny, where it's like, this reads just like me. And then you could say, remember this.
That's right. And that's the part that's, on the one hand, it's exciting. On the other hand, it can be unnerving to people that there's this machine that actually remembers how I speak or how I write or how I present.
Do you prefer to be the NSA?
No.
They might know. They might
not
know
at all,
too.
but I'm sure they're there anyway.
Yeah,
right?
so,
I mean, look, all you have to do is walk around with your phone. It's listening and doing everything you do. It's following you everywhere you go.
In the spirit of a little bit of fun here, everything you said was super boomery.
Right.
I mean, the net of it is like the average, I'm a millennial. I'm an old millennial, but I'm a millennial. Like, I have been signing and agreeing to privacy policies for my entire life without reading most of them. And the younger generations are even worse. They aren't even aware. They've been getting on TikTok for years, sharing their most intimate secrets with China, not even thinking about what that could mean. And so The average consumer, though, will trade any amount of their data. They don't value their own data at all, and all they value is the experience.
All right, hold that thought 1 minute. We're going to take a break. All right, so when we talk about that exact point is that they just sign away their rights. They have been the data all along. Yeah. When Facebook started, it was all about your data or my data is what made them money.
If the service is free, you're the product.
That's right. And I think it took time for a lot of people to recognize that. I don't think that became obvious to people, or at least a lot of people right away. It's certainly obvious now that if the data is free, you're the product.
But they don't care. Most don't care.
They don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. And so let's talk about this. Let's talk now about the leap from, we went from AI, simple chatbots, then to agentic AI. Now we're going to make a leap into this thing called quantum computing and quantum AI. Because I think we're very much at the beginning stages of that. So let's talk about, we started with AI, which was very elementary. Apparently it feels at least now elementary, right? Now we're talking about agentic AI. Now we're going to make this next leap into quantum computing, right? Like we started out, IonQ, which is having their investor day here at the New York Stock Exchange today, and is listed here at the New York Stock Exchange, is in that space, on the cutting edge of quantum computing.
Yeah.
Talk to the audience about what that means.
Well, again, quantum is a leap. Not just the show boomer, sorry, but quantum is going to be this next really powerful wave of capabilities. It's going to kind of work in parallel.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's not like AI is going to go away and quantum is going to enter the space. Quantum is going to be additive. And by the way, quantum isn't all one thing. You can have quantum networking, which we talk a lot about crypto, for instance. Right now, one of the biggest risks in the world to our monetary and financial systems is the fact that quantum cryptography quantum technology could break cryptography. It could break the security, RSA security that's used to secure blockchains, secure Bitcoin.
Right.
And that could happen in just a few years. The Department of War is looking into this. One of the things that was presented today at this IonQ event was that is a big concern. So quantum security can actually help prevent that. So that's one really important use case.
Well, could it help prevent it, or could it actually be?
Well, it's both.
It's both.
It's both. Right. It's just like AI, right? AI can be used to hack.
Right.
AI can be used to secure.
That's right.
Quantum technology can be used to break. Quantum safe cryptography can be used to basically prevent them from breaking the
So let's
security.
Let's talk about this. Let's bring it right.
By the way, that's just the first thing, though. Go ahead.
All right. Let's bring it right back here. Here we are at the New York Stock Exchange. Billions of transactions happen every single day in the financial markets in the United States, right? What's going to prevent, to your point, quantum computing from breaking the code, getting in here and creating chaos in the markets?
Well, it's going to be the companies that are heavily invested. It's companies like IonQ, it's companies like IBM and Google who are making massive investments to build this technology in parallel with AI,
right.
To make sure that they are going to secure these networks.
Right.
These networks that, by the way, all these transactions take place on these networks. There's no money. Nothing's really, money doesn't move.
There's no money.
It's just ones and zeros in different states. And then, of course, quantum computing, which is the next phase of computing. And again, it's going to be quantum with AI. So companies like NVIDIA are partnering with companies like IonQ. IBM is building things with IBM's software and IBM's mainframes and transactional databases to be able to ultimately deliver the future. Things like anti-money laundering. You asked about financial, right? Quantum could potentially help AI do better. Drug discovery. So IonQ shared an example. They partnered with AstraZeneca to try to accelerate drug discovery because they're already good at using high-performance computing and AI. But quantum can do things and does things differently. So for instance, quantum tends to do very well with things that have less available data. So quantum can, where AI needs lots and lots of data to solve a problem, quantum might be able to address a different part of a similar problem with molecules or drug discovery to be able to help identify the best mix of chemistry to be able to build the next generation of drugs. And that's really where they're looking at quantum, is to solve those kinds of really hard problems. But it's not quantum or AI. It's quantum and
AI, right? No,
AI.
Agreed, 100%, which I think what people need to understand. Here's another question. Do you think that there are going to be 2 or 3 or 4 industry fields, medicine, healthcare, financials that are going to really be on it? It sounds to me like it's medicine and healthcare really on the cutting edge.
Well, you have DARPA getting behind companies like Google, like IQ, and investing bigly, that's a word, because they do see it in really critical fields. Also in engineering, things like civil planning, civil engineering, because those are really complicated issues, getting people power, food, water. And by the way, quantum in AI is really interesting because quantum is very power efficient. So one thing about AI that everybody's talking about is energy.
Is energy demand.
Yeah.
Right. And quantum doesn't draw that much energy?
So quantum can actually help with problems. Like quantum and LLMs can actually make LLMs produce better results, but it can also make them produce better results with meaningfully less energy utilization. So that's for instance, of something that could be really useful if you could get LLMs and AI and quantum working together.
Now that's interesting because that's not a story yet. And maybe that's a story that's coming out because when everyone thinks about AI and they think about this computing, we've all been talking about the massive energy demands that are going to be on the grid. Around the world, not just here, but really around the world. That's an interesting point that I had not heard myself. It's more efficient.
It is more efficient. It is something that's being studied, and it is something that we should be talking more about.
Okay, so is quantum, in my mind, when I think of potential quantum in medical, could quantum computing and AI ultimately design a protocol for me that's different for you, even if we have the same types of disease, whether it's cancer, whether it's dementia, whether it's Alzheimer's? Do you think my treatment could be different from yours based on, I don't know, my genetic makeup?
That's a pretty specific problem. I think applying quantum to solving things like chemistry or medicine.
Right.
What I'm saying is right now, the problem you described is actually something that AI does incredibly well without quantum. Now, could quantum and energy efficiency drive those things so that when you're doing those particular types of queries, it does it more efficiently?
Right.
Yes. I don't think we've gotten to that layer yet, but for instance, like, I went on and I had like a bruise and I've took a picture of it and I dropped it in AI and I got a better answer for what was wrong with me than 3 doctors I talked to. I mean, this stuff is really efficient and I'm super into my health. I'm a big peptides guy.
Right.
I'm invested in sleep, in data tracking. I mean, you combine, your health data. You put your diet into something.
Right.
You put your sleep habits in, your exercise habits in. AI is an amazing optimizer. And I do think in the world and into the future, we need to go from a reactive, pharmaceutically driven society to a proactive, longevity-focused, personalized medicine society. And AI is going to empower that.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. I think actually the pharmaceutical industries are in business to keep you sick versus, to your point, I think people should start using the AI with the data that they have, your own data, right? Your sleep data, your workout data, just what you're eating, right? Are you putting it in there every day? For instance, you're putting in what you eat every day, or is it telling you what you should eat?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've been on a pretty, personal narrative here. I've been on this really, really intense wellness journey. Like I said, in the beginning of the year, I'd put on more weight. I was a little heavier than I'd been in a long time. I was a soccer player in college. I felt a little out of shape, and it was affecting my everything. Energy, my work, my focus, my clarity. And that's when I started got my diet straight. I did a GLP for a month, reset my diet. That was super interesting. First peptide I ever tried, by the way. And then I actually, cleaned up eating, got focused on sleep again. I quit drinking a long time ago, by the way. Big recommendation for anybody that can get off it, get off it. It's great for you.
100%.
But I got an Apple Watch. I used to kind of joke about people that tracked everything.
Yeah.
Started tracking my sleep. If I get 2 hours of restorative sleep. So I started biohacking. And by the way, and then with all this data I could put in, I could start to optimize my workeds. I could figure out what foods I eat that, what bothers me. What do I not want to eat on a day I'm going to be on a plane?
Right.
To know that I'm going to be feeling my absolute best.
Right.
AI plus data is amazing for personalizing these kinds of journeys.
Well, I got to tell you, because we're going to wrap this up. We're going to run out of time. But that whole story, that personal part of the story, is great because it brings it home to a lot of people. Certainly, you look great. I don't know what you look like before, but you look great today. So it's certainly helping you. We should talk about that. Because
happy to share. I love it so much. I'm investing. I'm going to launch a business pretty soon in the peptide space, personal medicine, telehealth. I'm going to invest in a couple of great young founders because I actually did this stuff, spent the last 7-8 months on this journey, reduced my body fat from 22 to 12%.
All right, so
I'm just telling you for AI, but AI was at the core of every part of this journey for me because it helped me so much more than any medical professional I've ever worked with.
All right, so we're going to talk about that after this interview. Anyway, it was such a pleasure having you here today. I want to do this again with you because once I launch the show, I want you to come back
Absolutely.
on. I think this is a fantastic, conversation. It is the future. You are right at the center of it because I see you everywhere, and I think you just do an outstanding job. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Kenny.
That's a wrap for today's Trader Talk, but the conversation continues. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. You got questions or topics you want covered? Great. Email us at tradertalk@yahooinc.com because we're always listening. Until the next time, stay sharp, stay disciplined, and stay in touch. Take good care.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.